Welcome back to the deep dive. Sometimes you come across a children's story, one you've heard a million times, and you suddenly see it's actually this perfect masterclass in how to build a narrative.
Yeah, absolutely.
And today, that's exactly what we're doing. We're taking a look at the classic Goldilocks and the Three Bears, but we're treating it like, I don't know, a piece of high-level architectural research.
That's a great way to put it. Our mission here isn't just to retell the story. We're trying to get under the surface. We want to analyze uh, the structural brilliance of the text,
Right.
specifically how the author uses this really meticulous pattern of contrast and repetition to create meaning and, really escalate the tension.
So we're dissecting this pursuit of what you could call sensory equilibrium, that famous just right feeling. And we're going to look at the very distinct and often destructive consequences that happen when she finds it.
Exactly. It's like a roadmap for how a story can use something as simple as scale to manage what an audience expects and then deliver a real emotional impact.
So to set the scene, first we have our intruder, Goldilocks. And the source text gives her this one really powerful descriptor. It's all about her hair.
hmm It was, and I'm quoting here, so bright and yellow that it glittered in the sun like spun gold. So she's this invasive element of pure brightness.
And she's tired, she's thirsty, and she wanders out of these sunny meadows into a cool, shady forest, and then she finds this lonely little house.
A house that belongs to a very specific, ordered family.
A very ordered family, defined completely by size. You have the great big father bear, the middling-sized mother bear, and then the dear little baby bear.
And this is crucial. The text points out that the baby bear is no bigger than Goldilocks herself.
Ah, so that establishes a direct connection, a size connection between the intruder and the one who's going to be, well, the most affected.
Precisely. And conveniently, the bears are out for a walk while their supper cools. The stage is perfectly set for the intrusion.
Okay, so let's unpack this structural pattern, because the moment Goldilocks steps inside, she's looking for rest. And right away, she's hit with this sequence of three.
Yes. 3 chairs, 3 bowls, all standing in a row. It's like a signal to the reader.
It immediately sets up that first sensory trial, doesn't it?
It really does. And the genius of this structure, people often call it the rule of 3 in folklore, is that it so efficiently sets up the extremes you need to find a balance point. The listener, or the reader, basically learns the rules of this little world in the first few lines.
And that first trial is all about comfort, the chairs, and they perfectly map that idea of size onto a sensory experience.
She starts with the biggest, the great big chair. And the description is so vital. The cushion was too soft. So soft it seemed like it would swallow her up.
It's an image of being overwhelmed, right? Engulfed by too much comfort.
Exactly. And then the narrative just swings the pendulum completely the other way.
To the middling-sized chair, which is, of course, the opposite, it's too hard, unyielding. The tension is created by those two failures.
And then we get the payoff. The dear little chair. The perfect fit. It was, quote, just right. And it fit her as though it had been made for her. This is that moment of pure equilibrium.
But here's the structural puzzle we have to talk about. Why is it that the perfect object, the one that fits her so exactly, is the one she immediately and completely destroys? She sat the bottom right out of it.
That's such a fascinating question. Because, if she destroyed the father bear's chair, it would just be a story about brute force. But destroying the baby bear's chair, that introduces this idea you could almost call destructive entropy.
Destructive entropy.
Right. The idea that the perfect fit, that moment of satisfying sensory balance, it actually demands an expenditure of energy. She sat and she rocked and she sat.
She's really using it.
That the fragile, perfectly tailored object just can't withstand. The smallest item, the one designed for her specific scale, is the most vulnerable to the force of her own satisfaction.
So the lesson is that finding your personal equilibrium, that just right feeling, it kind of necessitates the collapse of the system that was already there, especially at its most fragile point.
Precisely. The consequence isn't proportional to the size of the trespasser. It's inversely proportional to the size of the object's owner. Goldilocks' impact is greatest on the smallest, most precious things.
Okay, so she's established this pattern of physical destruction. Now the narrative tests her impact on something else, consumable resources. This is where the stakes really escalate from property damage to, well, annihilation.
She moves straight to the table. And again, you see the pattern, 3 sizes. But we also get this subtle, but I think really important detail in the source material.
What's that?
The biggest bowls have wooden spoons, standard stuff. But the dear little bowl has a dear little silver spoon.
Oh, that's interesting. It marks it as special.
It emphasizes the precious, unique nature of the smallest bear's things.
And the sensory trial shifts completely here. It's not about texture like soft or hard anymore. It's about temperature. And she just has to taste the porridge, which smelled so very good.
And we're right back to the extremes. The great big bowl is the first one. It's too hot, can't eat it.
The middle-sized bowl offers the opposite problem. It's too cold.
And then the baby bear's bowl, the perfect temperature. Just right. I mean, if you think about it in terms of narrative economy, the quick dismissals of the extremes are just plot devices. The real story, the real action, happens at that center point.
And the consequence is so different from the chair. It's really stark. She didn't just break the bowl. She didn't just sample the porridge. The text emphasizes this repetition. She tasted and tasted and tasted and tasted until she tasted it all up.
This is a clear escalation. The chair was, you could argue, accidental destruction that came from a good fit. The porridge is total consumption. It's based on pure sensory pleasure.
The reward for finding that perfect balance, that just right flavor and temperature, it's so compelling that it just overrides any sense of, propriety or moderation.
Yes. It becomes a total annihilation of the resource.
The message is pretty clear. The more satisfying that point of equilibrium is for her, the greater the deprivation for the actual owner. She's moved from being just a disruptive force to a force of complete depletion.
Which sets up the third and final trial perfectly. Goldilocks felt very sleepy, and after that meal, she needs that final step to really integrate herself into the home. Rest. So she goes upstairs, finds 3 beds, all in a row.
And this trial, this one tests the ideal resting posture, specifically through the opposing extremes of pillow height.
First, the great big bed. The pillow was too high, uncomfortable.
Then the middling-sized bed. The pillow was too low, still no good.
And then the baby bear's bed. And you should notice the subtle shift in the author's language here. It's not just right anymore. It's exactly right.
Exactly right. So this final iteration of balance is the most precise one yet.
The most satisfying. She found it so very comfortable that she lay there until she went fast asleep.
And unlike the chair and the porridge, the consequence here isn't destruction or consumption. It's integration. Her successful search for that final perfect balance leads to the deep sleep that traps her. It ensures she's still there when the bears come home.
It's the perfect narrative device for the climax.
Right. And now the structure completely reverses. The bears come home, and the focus shifts from Goldilocks' subjective sensory journey to the bear's objective inventory of all the intrusion and the damage.
And that link between scale and voice is immediately obvious. It's so efficient.
The emotional pitch of the house just rises with each bear size. You start with the father bear with his great big voice and his growl, and what does he find?
Well, his chair cushion was just crooked. His porridge had been tasted. The spoon was left on the table. His bed covers were pulled down. For the largest bear, the intrusion is, an annoyance.
It's evidence, but the damage is fixable.
Right. It's remedial. Then you have the mother bear using her middle-sized voice. She just said her discoveries.
And for her?
Her chair was standing crooked. Her porridge had been splashed a bit. Her pillow was pulled off. Again, interference, but not real loss.
But then the narrative weight just crashes down on the baby bear with his shrill little voice and his squeak. This is where that inverse proportionality really delivers its emotional punch.
His chair was destroyed, gone, and it left him very sad. His porridge was all eaten up, and he looked as if he were about to cry. So the disruption of his perfect, small, scaled-down world results in this profound emotional distress.
The text really forces you to see that the outsider's pursuit of equilibrium causes total loss for the rightful owner.
Exactly. And the crescendo continues upstairs. The 2 larger bears note the minimal disturbance to their beds covers, pulled down, pillow pulled off.
But the baby bear, when he inspects his small bed, he squeaked, but this time joyfully. Somebody's been lying in my bed, and here she is still.
That sudden shift in tone is everything. From this profound sadness over his lost porridge to joyous realization. That's the structural pivot right into the climax.
Goldilocks' awakening is described so beautifully. It details her confusion, and it links her sleepy state of mind to the bear's voices she's hearing. The father bear sounded like thunder rolling through the heaven.
A massive, natural, but maybe distant threat. Then the mother bear sounded like the wind blowing through the trees. Present, but less overwhelming.
But it was the baby bear's voice, described as so shrill and sharp, that actually broke through her sleep and woke her up.
And she sits up in a panic. She sees 3 sets of eyes looking at her, and the text focuses right on this visual of the intruder at the moment she's discovered. Her cheeks, as pink as roses, her golden hair all spread over the pillow.
The panic is instant. She cries, "Oh my goodness me!" And her flight is just desperate. She makes this critical decision not to face the consequences, but to flee.
She runs straight for the open window, jumps out, and runs home as fast as she could.
And the story ends that intrusion so decisively, she never went near the forest again. It's a story of rapid self-exile after this momentary but devastating trespass.
But if we're looking for that surprising high-level insight, it comes in the final detail, the one that's often forgotten.
Yeah.
After Goldilocks flees, the baby bear, whose chair was wrecked, whose meal was devoured, he didn't get angry.
No.
He cried and cried because he had wanted the pretty little girl to play with.
And that one line just completely reframes the entire confrontation, doesn't it? The narrative payoff isn't about punishing the intruder, it's about the shattered hope of the victim.
He wasn't looking for revenge. He was looking for a connection.
So if we connect the bigger picture, the source text shows that the structural efficiency of this tale is just perfect. It perfectly maps physical scale onto emotional and sensory experience.
And that search for personal equilibrium, it's always defined by rejecting 2 extremes and then embracing this fragile central perfection.
So what does this all mean for us? For you, the curious learner? I think it means that the text is built on this simple, powerful architecture. You have the rule of 3 setting the boundaries.
You have this inverse proportionality that governs the consequences. And the pursuit of just right is what ensures the whole narrative escalates through destruction, then consumption, and then finally entrapment.
The story shows us that finding just right always comes at a cost to the existing order of the house.
And finally, let's go back to that surprising final twist. Goldilocks flees in terror, right? She's assuming the 3 bears are all unified in their anger at her.
But the baby bear was just sad because he wanted a friend. So here's something for you to mull over. Does the text suggest Goldilocks was fleeing an inevitable physical danger? Or was she unknowingly fleeing an accidental invitation to socialize, to explain herself, which, perhaps for a frightened child, was an equally terrifying prospect?